I don't know from where to start. I mean,
I've heard. I was listening to a little bit of English, a little bit of Urdu.
Yeah.
But begin. Thank you for coming.
no,
Thank you for listening.
It is an honor. And let's say, why did you not visit, but you just got lost in Tibet for 2 years? Why?
It's a good question, a very important question, and I'm still analyzing the answer. So it's not finite, it's a work in progress. The simplistic way of answering it, I was very, very, very lost.
Lost.
But as a person.
As a person.
And I was trying to find the truth of who I was.
मतलब है कि बंदा जो है वो अपने आप को, और हर क्रिएटिव शख्स अपने आप को एक खास स्टेज पे लॉस्ट फील करता है, वो बेरिंग तलाश करता है कि कहाँ पे मैं बिलोंग करता हूँ या कौन सी चीज़ मुझे आसूदगी दे सकती है। तो जेमी ने बड़ी अच्छी बात की कि आई वाज लॉस्ट, और मैं चाहता था कि उसका कोई मुझे जवाब मिले, और उसके लिए तिब्बत वाज द बेस्ट प्लेस।
In hindsight, yes. And maybe I should elaborate the lost. Obviously, as a teenager, I was 17. I had no concept of what lost was. This is in hindsight. This is as we get older, you begin to understand organic, intuitive decisions that are made. Prior to the age of 17, my life had been split into two. It was bipolar existence. Prior to the age of 7, I traveled, as you said, with my geologist father around every continent in the world. From the age of 7 onwards, I lived predominantly in an English boarding school, Catholic Jesuit institution. And these two worlds were very separate.
Okay.
And there was a big clash. And that's where I was lost. I don't know how deep you want me to go.
The strictness of the boarding school,
it was more,
and the freedom of being a vagabond.
It goes further. It goes a lot further and a lot deeper, and I won't divulge too much. Prior to the age of 7, I felt seen and understood and connected with the world and humanity of the world and with myself. I have in my studio here lots of feathers. This is a metaphor. I think as a child, you're like a feather. You're light, you're aerodynamic. There are thousands of hairs, all beautifully aligned, and you really love that organic form.
Lightness.
You're a wing. If much the same as Forrest Gump. At the beginning of Forrest Gump, I'm sure some of your listeners
we see
there's an analogy of a feather, but the feather is a metaphor for the lightness of being a forest.
नेल्सन ये कह रहे हैं कि एक खास स्टेज आती है कि जब इंसान अपने आप को एक परिंदे के पर की तरह महसूस कि उसकी अपना एक एग्जिस्टेंस है और वो हवा के ऊपर तैर रहा है, जिस तरह फॉरेस्ट गंप आपने देखी होगी फिल्म, उसके आगाज में भी एक पर तैरता हुआ आता है.
And Forrest was told at the beginning by his mother, Forrest, you will be an eternal child.
Eternal.
Because he had severe autism, but it was a metaphor. But she said, if you look at yourself as a feather and care for that feather will bring you as a wing to the lightness of being. I, to the age of 7, was a feather. We all are as children. You trust, you're open, you love and are loved. Excuse me. After the age of 7, my feather was crushed. I let it be crushed. So I was a feather, but there was no more aerodynamics. So I landed on the floor.
Why were you crushed? How were you crushed?
Institutionalized by Catholic priests.
Okay.
And it was very, very, I apologize, I'll put this over here and slide it out of the picture. I walked very lovingly, naively into an institution of 1,000 little children and 400 Catholic Jesuit priests. And unfortunately, some of the Catholic Jesuit priests had been institutionalized too long behind walls, and they had access to young children, and they did things with young children which are not allowed.
Yeah.
And so you disconnect, you stop loving yourself, you stop trusting yourself, and you are indoctrinated with guilt.
So you escaped to Tibet. What happened?
So I had my teenage years very uncomfortable.
Okay.
I disconnected from myself, my physical self, because of what I've experienced. At the age of 16, I think if you talk about a moment, a calamity, but a positive calamity. I think this is a nice metaphor for life. We often hit brick walls, but sometimes you have to sort of dare to stand up. At the age of 16, 3 things happened at the same time. I was very ill with cerebral malaria, had a high temperature. I was living in the Congo. When one has a temperature, one is vulnerable, one is very emotional. I was very ill. I went back to this institution. They locked me in a room because they thought I was contagious.
Really?
So you're 16, you got locked in a room. I'm given the wrong antibiotics.
मलेरिया इनको हो गया अफ्रीका में और गलत एंटीबायोटिक दिया तो उन्होंने इनको बिल्कुल कैद कर दिया। एक ये बता रहे हैं कि उनकी बचपन में जो भी कह रहे हैं कि कई मरतबा एक वॉल, एक सॉलिड दीवार सामने आ जाती है आपके और आप उसके क्रॉस नहीं जा सकते। तो 3 ट्रेजेडीज हुई। एक ये कि इनको मलेरिया हो गया और इनके बाल वगैरह और इनको बंद कर दिया गया। द सेकंड ट्रेजेडी,
a lot of stress. And third, I woke up a week later with no hair. In one night.
So just in one night, एक ही रात में कहते हैं कि मेरे बाल जो थे गायब हो गए।
So as you can see, now I have no hair, and as my children mock, nobody has any hair when they're in Amsterdam or when they're 56.
No, but
when you're 16.
आजकल तो वैसे ही ये लोगों को बहुत शौक है। बहुत सारे यूरोप में मैंने देखा कि वो बिल्कुल उस तरह फिरवाते हैं टिंडे करके। तो उस लिहाज से जेमी जो है वो लेटेस्ट फैशन है इसका तो।